You mentioned today on the Big Ten call about the need to have some depth at defensive tackle. Do you feel like you're any closer to establishing that this spring than when it started? Or?
Yeah, I think obviously we're making progress with some young guys, but we got some redshirt freshmen that we're kind of dependent on, which is not ideal. You'd love to have seniors, juniors, and maybe a few redshirt sophomores sprinkled in the two deep, but there's obviously a lot of teams across the country that play with redshirt freshmen, and we got to be ready to do that as well. But I wouldn't say that as of right now. There's guys showing some flashes, but not ready to crown anybody at this point.
James, are you happy with where you're at right now? I mean, with the way you progressed from practice one to
Yeah, I wasn't happy with today. I think we're a mature football team. You guys know I never run guys after practice. We don't do that's junior high stuff. I mean, I thought we were sloppy today. I thought you guys know I'm a pretty positive guy, but I thought we were sloppy. We had too many penalties, balls on the ground, drop balls, just lack of discipline. So I was not pleased with today. But overall, I thought we've had a damn good spring. But I was not pleased with today.
Looked like Trace got a little vocal there. Is that kind of senior leadership getting on guys a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, Trace is one of our guys, like a lot of guys that it's been there, and done it, and he knows what it takes and what's necessary. And I think he saw some things like I saw today that are unacceptable. Lack of focus, lack of finish, lack of mentality, lack of championship habits, which is what we talk about all the time. So ultimately, it's on me and the staff to have the guys ready to practice today. It's also on the leadership, the seniors and juniors that have played a lot of football for us, to make sure we come out every single day locked in. So yeah, I would hope guys like Trace and Nick Scott and other guys that have played a lot of football for us would speak up and hold themselves accountable and hold other guys accountable and call people out. I think that's one of our problems now in our society, and especially specific to sports and young people, is everybody wants to be a leader by example, and no one wants to be a vocal leader. And I don't care, in any organization, on any team, you have to have some verbal leaders that are willing to speak up, and tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
James, your approach or priorities changed knowing that you've got 3 full practices here left, or is it just the same that you've had the previous 10 or 11?
Well, a little bit. We go in full pads to kind of protect the guys and still make sure the O-line and D-line can get what they want out of it, but we went tag off. I know there's a lot of conversations across the country about football and being smart and making decisions from a safety standpoint, but the programs I've been around, the majority of them are not tackling and banging that much anyway. So the last 2 practices have been what we call tag off, which is basically a 2-hand touch tempo in practice. Obviously, I felt like we've had a good spring so far up till today. So now it's refining a few things, and it's getting ready to get to the spring game, and then get ready to, get into our spring and summer training to get ready for fall camp. It'll be here before we know it, as we all know.
You mentioned guys hearing things they needed to hear. I saw that Daquan was here and talked to the team. How did that come about? What was that conversation like, and what was the message that you wanted?
Yeah, Daquan, I'm proud of. As you guys know, I use social media to kind of have the pulse of our team and have the pulse of our players. It's amazing how much you can learn about a team. You guys know, you do the same thing. On what people are posting, what time they're posting it, the temperament of their post, and all those types of things. And I do that with a lot of the former players. I follow them as well. It's just a great way for me to kind of stay in touch. And I'm very proud of Daquan Davis and what he's doing. He's training and coaching kids in Baltimore, and I'm really proud of him. So I had reached out to him and said, hey, I'd like for you to, obviously come up to a practice, but I'd also like for you to speak to the team about perspective. And I tell you what, he did an unbelievable job. As you guys know, we post a lot of little videos when people come back and talk to the team. He did an unbelievable job speaking to our team, and I couldn't be more proud of him. So, we all have different paths and we all have different journeys, but I couldn't be more proud of him and what he's doing right now.
James, are practices like today unavoidable and you're just going to have a sloppy practice here and there, or is there something you can attribute to whether it's not having enough vocal leaders right now or something else?
No, I'll never be satisfied or okay with poor practices. Especially during the spring where you only practice every other day. You only got 15 practices. Good great teams, good teams don't do that. They don't do that. So obviously we got a lot of growing up to do. But I thought just it was unacceptable on every level. We'll never accept poor performances in the classroom. We'll never accept poor performances on the football field. We'll never accept poor behaviors in the community. You guys sometimes want to know how we're dealing with them and how we're addressing them. And you may not know that, but they will always be dealt with. Always be dealt with from practice, from school, and in the community.
James, the defensive end group, the young guys, how have they progressed this spring, and what do you think are the expectations you have for your defensive end group? It's a pretty deep group.
Yeah, we feel good about that group. A lot of guys that have played a lot of football for us, a lot of athleticism. Some guys that played last year that were undersized, like Shane Simmons, who's now over 250 pounds. Guys like Shaka, who obviously the media guy, said one thing, but probably was another in terms of his weight. And he's finally getting bigger and stronger. So I think we're in a really good place. We're pretty confident about where we're at defensive end. It needs to be a strength of our defense while our D tackles grow and mature inside, and the same thing at Mike linebacker. So I think, obviously we had a lot of turnover in terms of 4 seniors in the secondary leave, but the guys behind them have played a lot of football, and the defensive ends should be able to help with that as well in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback.
James, is there one area of Miles' game that he's improved significantly when you guys since the start of spring to now?
Yeah, as you guys know, I'm not really a favorites guy, or I very rarely equate success or someone's personal growth to one area. It's kind of everything, and he's been really good in his role. He's been patient, but there's also a part where he's been impatient at times, which that's how I want it. I want him to be hungry and want to get on the field. But I think, he's handled things the right way and has grown dramatically. And I think I made the comment before. I think, obviously he could have played a lot of places the last 2 years, but I think the combination of how he did play and how he did prepare and who he was behind, training and learning and watching all those championship habits and behaviors, I think he's pretty far along right now. I know our defensive coaches, and I know our team thinks very highly of him. It was what he's done in the offseason in the weight room, what he's done on the field so far. The challenge is he'll make 4 people miss and go 80, and we're all like, next play, because we've been a little spoiled with Saquon Barkley for the last couple of years. But I do think Miles is, in that conversation, in terms of what he's been able to show and what he's been able to do so far.
When you look at the offensive line and the development there, what's the spring meant for Michael Bennett, getting him out there, and how's that position?
Yeah, Michael's probably one of the guys in the program that's improved the most in a lot of different areas. In terms of fundamentals and technique. In high school, he was just such a better athlete than everybody. But technique and fundamentals and mentality, and durability, he's probably had, since the end of the season to now, probably as much improvement as anybody in our program. So I'm really pleased with him. He's legitimately fighting for a starting job and getting a lot of reps with the ones right now. So we'll see. Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
okay.
I was just kind of,
To be honest, I started talking so long, I forgot what your original question was.
I tend to do that.
How about CJ and Dez? We talked a lot about them last
year.
How close are they?
CJ is probably in the run game, maybe our best guy in the run game. I mean, he plays with an attitude. He plays with a chip. He tries to finish people. He's got a nasty streak. I mean, he's everything you want in the run game, but he's behind in the pass game. So that's got to be his area of focus, and he's got to have enough maturity to say, okay, this is a weakness, and I'm going to spend a lot of time working on that to make it become a strength for us. But he's a guy we're really excited about. I want that mentality to spread. Our defense gets frustrated with him sometimes, and there's a lot of chirpiness because he plays with an edge, and I don't want to lose that. I'm going to address that with the team on Friday. Let me control that. I'll decide when a guy's gone too far. I want us to play with that mentality and that edge, and I worry a little bit right now that there's people that are trying to take that away from him, and I don't want that. Who's the other person?
Holmes.
Yeah, Des Holmes is probably the opposite. is further along in pass protection, and needs to improve in the run game. Plays a little high in the run game, but overall, we're really excited about those two guys. They're both 315, 20-pound plus guys that can move. They're smart, they're intelligent, they're tough. Got great work ethic. Those two guys on scout team got unbelievable reviews from our defensive coaches all season. So, all season last year. So, feel good about those guys long term, but they got some things that they got to improve on, like we all do.